Hi everyone. Thanks for joining me for the Growing with Gardens program. This is Laura from Ross Draper Public Library, and today we are going to talk about habitats and respect for habitats. But before we get into our theme for today, I am going to update you on our garden as we always do. And this time I have some photos for you of our garden. So I'm trying it a different way each time, it seems, to help you to stay up to date with what's happening in our garden. So I'll just show you these pictures, and as I do this, if you want to share and chime in with what is happening in your gardens and in your yards, what plants are growing. This is our zinnia plant. So as you can see, we have some buds coming, so those beautiful colorful flowers will be happening soon. And here are marigolds, so we have really pretty flowers already on those ones, and these ones were started later, so they don't have flowers yet, but we have some orange and yellow flowers. Do you guys have marigolds in your yard? What flowers are you growing? Here's more pictures of our marigolds. They're just so pretty. And these are our wildflowers. They're still growing, and we're going to see what grows because it's kind of a mix of seeds. So I'm not sure what flowers are going to pop up. This is our basil plant. It's getting really big, so I'm probably going to take some basil off and maybe dry it. Here's our carrots. They're really popping up here. Here's our tomato plants, really, there's about 4 of them. They're getting really tall, and there are some blossoms on them, some yellow blossoms if you can see and look closely. And then this is our pepper plant. We have 2 pepper plants, and both of the pepper plants have buds on them. So that's really exciting. Our peppers are going to be coming on here. So what is growing in your garden and in your yard right now? And here's our broccoli plant. Every time I'm here, it seems to be bigger, so that one's doing really well. Our cosmos are still coming along. They're pretty small, but I'm still waiting to see if they get bigger and stronger. And then lastly is another picture of the other zinnia plant. So there's another bud on that one. So those are doing really well. So that's just an update of what's happening in our garden, because I want you guys to stay up to date and be involved. We would normally be going out together and taking care of it together. So I just want you to have a part of it in it. So comment as if you're watching this later or now, and what are your favorite plants, maybe in our garden or in your garden? What are you taking care of? Have you harvested anything? It's a really exciting time of the summer because everything is like showing its face. There's little buds and flowers and little vegetables. So now that we've done an update of our garden, we're going to get into today's theme, which is all about habitats and respect for habitats. So what is respect? You probably have learned about respect before. And maybe you talk about respecting your family, your friends, your neighbors, those around you. But have you ever thought about respecting nature? What does that mean? And why are we talking about respect in a garden program? Well, respect really is just showing attention and care for something. So the biggest part about respect is caring for something. So when you respect a person or a thing like nature, you are saying that it is worthy to be cared for and it deserves to be cared for, and you're going to care about it. So sometimes we treat nature as something that exists to just like serve us, and we don't think about that we should give back and that we should care for nature, but it needs us just as much as we need nature. So this is where habitats come in. So a big problem sometimes is that humans, when we destroy nature, we destroy habitats. You take away habitats when you destroy nature. And what are habitats? I'm sure you've learned about this before, but habitats are just basically a place in nature that is a home for a living creature. So this place has everything that that creature needs to survive, and that creature is happy and is able to live there. So why should we respect habitats? And how can we do that? We can care for them. And when we respect habitats, we're saying that we share this space on Earth with other creatures and other living things who are extremely important, and they shouldn't be harmed. So we are protecting those habitats and those homes and those creatures. So that's kind of a little bit about respect and habitats, but how can we do this? What actions can we take? Well, first of all, we can learn about habitats. Learning is one of the biggest ways you can respect something. So we're going to do an activity today. So if you're watching this right now, I would love for you to join in through the comments, just chiming in. So here's what we're going to do. I have 3 different habitats that you might see in your backyard or nearby. And as I show these to you, I would like you to think of creatures that might live in these places. So if you can chime in and think about what might live in soil. So this is a picture of just some soil. What might live in soil? What ideas do you have? If you're watching this later, just say them out loud at home. What lives in soil? Have you dug up some soil and looked? Have you ever seen it on top of the soil? Or maybe when you were planting your vegetables or your flowers, you saw some of these creatures in the soil. So some things that might be living in your soil. Oh, we have a comment, just reading that. White clover all through the yard. Yes, there is so much clover and those bees are loving it. Some of the flowers are marigold, lamb's ear, and oh my gosh, I love lamb's ear. It's so soft and beautiful. And you've already harvested peas, lettuce, and green beans. That is awesome. There is so much activity happening in that garden. Thank you for sharing. So some of the things that might be, I think the comments might be, oh, I see, at the bottom. Okay, and soil worms, absolutely. That's the big one. And worms are so important, as we all know, and we have learned. So here's the earthworms. We have centipedes, millipedes. This is a grub. And then we have ants. And then over here, we have something called microbes. Microbes are really just microscopic organisms that you can't see, but they live in the soil. So those are things like bacteria and fungi and stuff like that. And they're super, super tiny, and there's so many that we can't even comprehend how many there are. And they're just really doing a lot of work for us in the soil, making sure our plants grow and that the soil is healthy. So that was our soil. Thank you for sharing. Okay, so our next habitat is also underground, but this one is more specifically tunnels or burrows. So what would live in tunnels and burrows? Think about that. Have you ever gone outside and seen little holes maybe in your yard or maybe even in your garden? And you ever thought, I wonder what lives in there? Or I wonder why that hole is there? It's probably one of these creatures that's making tunnels in the earth below underground. So what could be living in these tunnels? And burrows. So burrows aren't, they're more like closer to the ground. There's not like all this intricate tunnels underground, but let's see what might be living there. Let me get the page here. There we go. Okay, tunnels. Oh, moles and voles. Yep, moles and voles. Absolutely. They are pros at tunnels. So here we have a mole. Here's some other things that might be in these tunnels and burrows. So we have an ant. Those are tiny tunnels, but ants are amazing. They can make these really complex tunnels, and they have different rooms. Like we have living rooms, kitchens. They have rooms for all the things that they need to do. They even have like nurseries for their babies. So they're like really, really awesome, and they live in tunnels. Okay, so then we have bears. So those are more in burrows and dens, but they technically do that. And then we have earthworms again. They have those tunnels. and when they make those tunnels, they provide air for our plants. Then we have a fox. Foxes live in burrows. Mice, they do tunnels as well. Rabbits live in burrows. Sometimes rabbits take over burrows that other animals have left, like if a chipmunk or something a little bit bigger, maybe like a groundhog, makes a tunnel or a burrow, the rabbits will move in once they move out. So then we have the groundhog and the chipmunk. So those are all different animals that could be living in burrows and tunnels in your backyard, maybe. And our last one is forests and trees. What lives in the forest and the trees? I'm sure you have seen lots of forests because there is forest everywhere in Pennsylvania. So have you gone on a hike? What have you seen? Or maybe you have forest nearby you in your backyard. What are some creatures that might live there? Here are just some. I'm showing you these creatures, but it's just some of the many animals who live in these habitats. So here's some that you might see. We have turkey. I just saw one of these yesterday in my woods. Blue jays, hawks. Do you see those flying high up in the sky? An owl will live in the forest. I've only seen an owl once or twice. It was so cool. Then we have bats, robins, and a ton of other birds. Of course, we have deer. Here's a sparrow. Those are really popular. I see them all the time. And our squirrels. Squirrels are awesome climbers. So those are some of the creatures that make their homes, their habitats, in trees and the woods. Thank you so much for sharing, and if you're watching this later, for coming up with ideas at home. So that's one of the ways that we can learn how to respect habitats. We can learn about what's living in our backyard, and I just saw the forest comment. I think they're delayed. Squirrels and birds. Absolutely, those ones are everywhere. So many birds. So that's just one of the ways that we can learn about respecting habitats. Because when we learn about what's in our backyard, and then also what all across the world, all the different habitats that there are, we know more, we're able to protect those habitats and those animals more, and we can care for them better by paying attention to them. And then this leads us to our next idea for respecting habitats. You can share what you've learned with others. You can tell them about all the things that you found out live in soil, trees, tunnels, maybe across the world, and you can tell them how important it is to protect those habitats. Another way you can support and respect habitats is actually by making some. So you can do this. There's a lot of different things you can do to help the creatures in your backyard, but here's a few ideas. So you may remember this from our pollinator session, but we made an insect house. So this is something you can actually make today or in the next week very soon and put it outside, and insects and bees might move in. So you can go back to the pollinators session video to find out how to make that. We made that there. And we also made the butterfly feeder, upside down. We made the butterfly feeder, which is not where butterflies live, but it helps them, it provides food for them, which is very important. You also want to provide what they need to survive. So you can also look to the pollinators session to find out how to make that one too. Here's another really simple idea to support habitats. This is a way for birds to find materials for the nests that they build. So what you can do, this is a kitchen whisk. So you can get an old whisk and you hang it up in a tree or outside, and then you stick these things in it. So things you can put in it are straw, twigs, dry grass, dog hair even. I do that with my dog. Dead leaves and shredded paper. And if you put all that stuff in the whisk the birds will come and hang on the whisk and pick out some materials to build their nests. And that will be really helpful for them. So that one's a really easy way you can support a habitat for birds. And then you can do two things that if you were able to get one of the supply bags for this session, you might have one of these at home already with supplies to make one. But you can either make a frog house or a fairy house. So the frog house is an actual habitat that a frog might come into your garden or your yard and move in. So I'm just going to briefly show you how to make that because it's very simple. If you don't have one of the bags, or if you didn't get this one for your bag and you still want to make it, you can just get a pot. This one's a little small, so you might want to get a bigger pot, like maybe that big. It can be a clay pot, a metal pot, any type of container like this. And what you're going to do is decorate it if you want, paint it, put anything on it, and then you turn it on its side and you dig like a shallow hole in the ground, and then you put your pot there and you kind of fill the dirt back in around it and also in it in the bottom here. And then that pot just sits in there and it provides shelter and a home for a toad or a frog. So it kind of looks like that once you put it in the soil. So you also want to provide water for the toads and the frogs because they really like shallow water. So if you get like a tray, like a pot saucer or an old plate and just fill it with water, the frogs and the toads will really like that. They actually breed in shallow water. But make sure that if you do that, that you keep it full. Don't let it run out. Also, when you're placing this, try to pick a spot that has plants, maybe like bushes, brush, stuff like that, because toads and frogs like to hide and have shelter. And when there's lots of plants, it also makes it moist. So toads really like that. So if you do those things, you might get some toads moving in. The other one that you can make is a fairy house. So this one requires imagination. The theme for our summer reading quest this year is Imagine Your Story, and it's all about imagination, stretching your imagination through books and through activities. So this one kind of goes along with that. A fairy house is a really fun way to work on a project for your garden, and as you work on this project, you can use your imagination, and imagination is really awesome because it helps us to understand nature and to feel closer to it, and to kind of imagine what it would be like to be a frog, an ant, a squirrel, different creatures in our yards and in our gardens. So this is a way to practice imagination. I'll just show you real quick how to make one of these. So this one, this pot is, I believe, 4¼ inches, something like that size. You can use this, or you can use a bigger one, smaller one. It can be any size you want. But what you do is you turn it upside down. You take fabric. You can cut this out of any fabric, or you can paint it if you prefer. You can cover it with glue. I used Elmer's glue and it worked great. And then just cover your pot in that fabric with the glue underneath. And so it's covered for a nice, pretty home. And then you can cut out of felt or another material you have at home, a little door. You can glue that on. Then you can cut out little windows. You can even draw these on or paint them if you are painting, and you can glue those on the sides like that. And then you take the saucer for the pot, and you put it on top of the pot. You can glue it. And then you can fill the top of the saucer with little rocks and stones to make it like a little roof. And if you don't want to glue it, that also kind of holds it down with the weight. So that's your fairy house. And you can put that in your garden. You can also make a little flag to go with your fairy house, just out of a craft stick and a piece of fabric, and stick it in the soil to mark the fairy house. So that one's a really fun craft, and it's pretty easy to do. If you have done this craft and either with your own supplies or supplies from the library, I would love to see it. We would love to see what you've been working on. So whether it's now or later, you can post pictures maybe in the comments, or even just tag us on Facebook or other social media and show us what you created for your projects. We do have about, as of right now, when I'm filming this, we have about 4 fairy houses left. We ran out of frog houses, but we have 4 fairy houses left. So if you want to make one, the Google form is on our Facebook page and our website. So those are some projects that you can do to learn about habitats, care for habitats, and grow closer to the habitats in your backyard. So the final 2 things I will show you, which were part of the packet if you received the bag of supplies, are 2 more things, and these are more like things you can put in your garden journal, some activities you can do. This one, I'll do this one first, is observation. So observation is very important for respecting and caring for nature, because we're being quiet and we're listening and we're observing what's happening in our gardens, in our backyard. So this one is really just going outside, gathering some art supplies. I know you can't read it, but I'm just showing you the layout. And sitting in a quiet spot, watching your garden, and picking a creature you see. It can be a little insect, it can be a bird, anything like that. You can describe what it's doing. Write down the creature that you're looking at. Describe what it's doing, how is it acting, and then describe its habitat. So it might, if you're looking at like a bird in the garden, that really might not be where it lives, but you can still describe that place because it's visiting there, and it's obviously there for a reason. So you can describe where is it, what is it doing, stuff like that, and then you can draw a picture of it in its habitat. Or you can pick the creature, then research a little bit in like a book or online and discover where that creature lives, and then you can draw the picture. It's up to you. It's all about observation and learning and just paying attention to the creatures and the habitats in your yard and your garden. And then this last one is another imagination activity. This one is imagining an animal home. So you can do this any way you'd like. You can go outside, you can pick a book from, or you can pick a creature in a book, you can just pick your favorite animal, and you can start to imagine, just sit there and kind of brainstorm. You know, where does this creature live? You can look it up if you want, or you can just make it up on your own. Where do they live? And then you can think about, what does it look like? Maybe if it's a rabbit and they live underground and we can't obviously see their home underground, imagine what it might look like, what's in there, what do they need, what do they like to have in their home. You can think about your own bedroom or your own house, what it looks like, what you need to live and what you like to have in your space, and then you can start to create a home for your creature. It can be as silly, as fun, or as realistic as you want. You can just draw a room or draw a house for your creature. And once again, that helps to stretch our imaginations, which helps us to connect with nature, to really consider the creatures and care for them, which is all about respect, or that's what respect is all about. So I hope you have so much fun getting outside and learning about habitats and creatures. We have a wonderful, beautiful day here. So I hope you're having fun with these activities and maybe the fairy houses and frog homes. It's been great to hear from you, and we definitely miss you here at the library. So as soon as you go outside and start paying attention and caring for creatures, you're respecting habitats. So that's all it is. It's that simple. And they definitely appreciate all of your care. We're going to finish off here with a very short poem that went along with our theme today. It's called Hurt No Living Thing, and it's written by Christina Rossetti. Hurt no living thing, ladybird, nor butterfly, nor moth with dusty wing, nor cricket chirping cheerily, nor grasshopper so light of leap, nor dancing gnat, nor beetle fat, nor harmless worms that creep. All parts of nature are precious and deserve our respect, and they love the care that you've been giving them. So keep up the great work. We will see you next time. Thanks for coming, thanks for participating, and thanks for supporting the library. Be on the lookout for our next bag of supplies, which will be coordinated with our next theme, which is observation and discovery. So that'll be coming soon. Thanks, everyone. See ya.